For these Dollar Tree Christmas DIYs, I grabbed some Christmas stuff and some regular stuff from Dollar Tree to create these 7 DIY projects that I think you're going to just love. First, we're going to start off with this wood giant tree slice. I call it a wood giant tree slice, even though it says it's a wood sign, but it's more like a very thin slice of wood. And we're going to use 2 of these crates. Now, we're first going to just take our antique Waverly wax and we are going to stain everything. Using a baby wipe is probably the best method to apply this quickly and easily. I am actually out of baby wipes, so I'm just using a paper towel here. Now while that's drying, we're going to create a raised stencil. I'm using some DAP spackling here. My favorite is Joint Compound, but I can't get to it, and this was right over my head, so it's a little dry, okay? I was struggling to get its crustiness out of here, but we're gonna make it work by adding some white paint to this and some water. And just use a little bit of elbow grease until you have the consistency of smooth butter. And then pick out your stencil. I thought this one would go just perfect with the way that it just kind of lays when I turn it, you know, like a triangle and at the top of the tree. And then we're just going to patch it in as we go down. I did take a minute to kind of center our little crates and make sure that it wasn't going to overlap where we're going to put our spackling. And once I had that all marked up, I started applying our little mixture here. Now I have this little spatula thing because I get most of my craft supplies at Ross, and this just happens to come in one of the little paintbrush bundle things that I purchase. But don't hesitate to use a spoon. You got a plastic spoon laying around, use that joint. It will do the job just the same. I've been doing this for years at this point, and I tell you, it doesn't matter if you have crafty special tools. It is going to look like this no matter what, as long as you keep your stencil in place. And a little tip, if you want an extremely professional finish, make sure you're washing your stencil in between applications. As you can see here, there is a little bit of smudging. I'm going to show you how to fix that though. For crafter's sake, I like to call it, just to save some time, I may cut a corner or 2. Okay, please don't hate me. If I'm not reselling a piece, and I'm keeping it and I'm just kind of showing you guys inspiration, I have no problem doing that, but I like to be real with y'all and let you know, like, hey, I'm not washing the stencil every time. This is why it's bleeding, or this is why there's extra. And in case you guys do that, guess what? I'm going to show you how to fix it. Like right here. Wait until this is dry, and then you're going to take a tiny paintbrush with a little bit of your antique Waverly wax, and you are just going to go over it. And boom, it is completely fixed and it looks really, really nice. That is a good reason why you paint first or stain before you do a raised stencil like this, in the event that there is some bleed through. And even though you try to do as much as you can to prevent that, you can go back over it, and these little details will help fix those problems and give you that high-end looking finish. Here we are just addressing the dangly crusty bits that are hanging off the side of our tree slice. After this dries, it's pretty hard, so being able to kind of flicking one off there, scraping one off is super easy. Next, we're going to glue on our crates. Make sure you're using some wood glue for a long hold and some hot glue for the quick hold. And if you want some extra protection, don't be afraid to use a drill bit to put some screws in there and some little pieces in the back, so it really, really stays on for a long time. And these are just some little snowflake laser cutouts that I had, and I am putting different ones on the top of these trees. For staging purposes, I'm just using some stickies on the back for them to hang on the wall, but you could easily put some twine or some ribbon to add your hanger accents. These are absolutely my favorite Christmas DIY that I have made so far this year. For these little stocking holders, we're going to need 2 of Dollar Tree's wood pen holders. And for our hooks, you can use whatever you want. I have these little knob pulls that I purchased for like $1 on clearance at either Home Depot or Lowe's. If you want these to last a long time, I highly recommend putting a hole through here and using the screws that come with the piece. for crafter's sake, I am just going to glue these on here to give you guys the idea. I'm also keeping the boxes neutral. Feel free to paint these and or decoupage them, whatever floats your boat. If you're going to use this for larger stockings, because you can, weigh this down with some rocks. I'm just decorating it with some of the little wood bits and put whatever florals you want in the top. And I had these little decorative stockings that are just darling and thought it was super cute put on these pieces. I hated like hell that I was going to paint over this just because the design in the center is gorgeous, but I did it anyway. Took 3 coats. I was a little ticked off that it took me that many coats to get a nice coverage on this little plastic silver plate piece. And I just wanted to keep this really simple. So I'm taking this reindeer ornament piece I picked up in a pack from Walmart and then adding some of Dixie Belle's black gilding wax right to the edges. If you do not have gilding wax, you can use black paint on your finger. It will also do the trick, or a permanent magic marker that will also do the same. Just be gentle with the brushing of it and it just brings out all the etchings. It's absolutely gorgeous. For this little decor piece, we're going to need a palette and one of these rectangular wood pieces that come in a pack. They're like little planks from Dollar Tree. I don't always see them, but whenever I do, I grab them. I'm using the Antique Waverly Wax to stain both of them. Not perfectly, because you're not going to completely see these. This is kind of just to add our little bit of an accent. And then we're going to make some little legs. And we're going to bring in the miter shears to accomplish this. So I'm taking just one of these little wood bits and then cutting legs roughly as close as I can to the same size. This is a little tricky, so just be careful. And yep, things are going to go flying, you know, make the best of it. You could get a little bag and cut the stuff in the bag so they don't go everywhere. But, you know, I like to live on the edge of my crafting area where everything goes flying. Anyhow, I'm taking some Dollar Tree's fabric and I cut it and frayed it and glued it around the center of our palette. And then I glued this deer head onto the center of this palette. And then I just started gluing more things onto the stand. This was supposed to be like a little Christmas decorative thing, you know, that you could, I don't know what I was making. I gotta be honest with you. In my mind, it made sense. And I thought I was done. Then I realized I'm like, I'm just making something. I don't even know what I'm making. I went hard left with this. I was like, we're just going to leave it in, you know, inspiration. Threw some florals in this sucker and there it is. There it is. For our little snowman, we're just going to take one of these Dollar Tree planks and we're going to paint the bottom of it white for his face. And then I'm taking some fabric because we're going to decoupage it right on to the top of this for his hat. I'm using Deco Art's matte decoupage for this. You can use Mod Podge if you have it. I'm actually out of it. It's one of my favorites. And this will give you the same exact result either way. We are going to apply a pretty heavy coat onto this, not extremely heavy. Here's how you'll know. If you put too much on here, it won't lay flat. It will start coming up. Your fabric will start popping up. If you don't have enough, it will also start coming off. If you have just the right amount, it will pretty much stick to your wood all the way around to the edges. You may have to apply just a little bit more. Tricky decoupaging fabric, I know, but the process, you know, it just takes some practice. Wait until your piece is completely dry before you add on your top layer. I like to wait until the bottom layer is dry and then go over with the protective coat just to be safe, because sometimes if it's still wet, your piece may move just a little bit. This also helps to harden our piece. So when we're trimming that excess off around the edges, we make sure that that napkin or that paper or that fabric is not moving. To attach the brim of our little hat here, I'm using some tacky glue since we have some fabric. I really like using tacky glue whenever you have fabric on a project and you want to glue other things to it. It seems to hold super, super well. Now I'm just going to sketch on our face, and I find the easiest way to sketch a face is to create it sleeping or with its eyes closed. Simply draw like little U's, very wide U's, and put some little lashes at the ends. And because I want the little snowman to look silly, I'm just drawing his smile on here, very squiggly, and I'm going to draw the nose on, but I'm going to use a Sharpie marker to do the eyes and the mouth, and then I'm going to use pumpkin orange colored paint to do the nose. And that's going to be it for this little crafty snowman. He is super cute, or she is super cute. You guys let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this little piece. Super simple and super adorable. You're going to need one of the tag signs from Dollar Tree. You could really use any type of tag sign, but this is one of Dollar Tree's tag signs. We're going to paint the back of this white. Just one coat. We just want to get that brown off of there because we're going to decoupage this gorgeous napkin on to here. And the reason I picked this napkin is because there's so much real estate. Most napkins, each little square piece has the decoration. This one did not. It only had it on 2 of the sections. So now I get to use more of that ornate design. But before we do, we're going to need to cut our little shelf piece. This is a little circular, I don't know, I call these ornaments from Dollar Tree. What do you guys call these things? It's an ornament to me, but it's a wood piece. And we just need to chop off the back and make it flat. So I'm going to take this outside with my miter saw and give it a once over. So this way it's just like this. And then I'm going to paint it white so it matches. Okay. Now, while that's drying, we're going to peel off a corner of our napkin and get all the sneaky layers off. This is a quick and easy way to just get all the little extra bits so you have the top decorated layer. If you guys are new to decoupage or you want some more information on decoupage, you have come to the right channel. I will link all the how-tos and tutorials that I have down in the description box. Even have a decoupage medium video for you to check out if you need all that information. I go into deep, extensive detail in many of them, as well as a link to my website because I sell napkin bundles down there, and this particular napkin is for sale in my Christmas napkin bundle. Anyway, now that that plug is over, let's get back to our project here. Whenever I'm decoupaging a napkin, I like to say less is more, because the more Mod Podge you use, the more your napkin will rip. Unless you come across a napkin that is as thin as this sucker. This was so thin, there was no wiggle room with this at all. And I was literally cutting the napkin into bits, trying to match every little section up just perfectly so it looked like one unified piece. It was not easy. And I've probably decoupaged hundreds of things at this point with napkins. This was probably one of the thinnest I have ever used. But I got it done, people. I got it done. Pat myself on the back there. Once it dried, I took a sandpaper and got all the extra bits around the edges. And then it was time to bring in our shelf. Our shelf looks kind of plain, you know, so I have to do something to it. So I'm going to add some of the Dollar Tree metal lace. I'm taking some tacky glue and some hot glue to accomplish this, and I'm going to cut the ribbon to size, obviously, but not go all the way around to the back of the end, the back side, where we're going to be attaching it onto our tag. To my surprise, this was fairly easy with the tacky glue. I was rather impressed. When I've used a Gorilla Glue gel to attach the metal ribbon onto or lace onto stuff, it pops off a little bit. The tacky glue and the hot glue, it was really a nice combo. To attach the shelf, I used the tacky glue and the hot glue. I would come back in if you want this to last and not fall off over the long term. Use stapler and staple it from the back, or put some nail pieces in there, and that was it for this one. I did add a little floral at the top, but absolutely love this piece and how this came out, and you are not going to believe how well this piece paired with the two Christmas trees. I gotta be honest, people, I was a little bit nervous with the idea of building this tumbling tower block Christmas tree because the top is slanted, and I know that the hot glue will hold it in place, but I was worried that the weight of it was going to cause it to tumble back and forth. So we'll get there. I will show you guys what I'm talking about. To start this off, we're going to need a lot of 2x2s. Now for the base, I'm doing, see how the 2x2s, I'm gluing 2x2 together, and you will need 2 sets of these. So it will be 8 total blocks just for the base of our tree. I will tell you, I used almost an entire block of the tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree to create this piece. Not the whole thing, but again, you can make this as big as you want. I'm just giving you guys the idea. So after I had these all in their 2x2 little partners, I started gluing on the base. The whole bottom piece that I have right here that you see me gluing it onto, I just had that laying around and I thought this would be perfect for the bottom of this. Use whatever you want. If you want to use tumbling blocks to create a base, do it. So here's where I started with the construction of trying to figure out how to angle this. Now, my girlfriend, Angela Jones, DIY, she has built stuff like this before with tumbling tower blocks, and she will use a little dowel to put in between. So you got like a place to press the tumbling blocks onto and apply a lot of glue. And I'm using this little bit here. And of course, you know, I think I just at this point like seeing where the pieces end up once I chop them in half. But I'm loading up the center right here with the glue, and then we're going to put our little bit right there as our brace, and we're going to start applying the tumbling blocks on the sides and going up to create our tree effect. For the entire thing, I just did 2x2. So each side of our tree here will have 4 tumbling blocks, and I used tacky glue. I know, tacky glue. I usually use wood glue and hot glue, but I had the tacky glue kind of just sitting right next to me, and I'm low on wood glue, and you know, you got to tip it over and then squeeze it out, and I was like, it was just easier to use the tacky glue for this. And I gotta be honest with you, it worked out really flippin' well. I was not disappointed at all. So you can see me hesitating every time I go to put on the next layer because one, I was trying to move the tumbling blocks around so they were not all facing the same exact way. So once I put the stain on here, it would have different variations in the tree. And two, I wanted to make sure that the layers were shorter than the next layer. So if I put it the opposite way, it definitely was not hanging in, it was hanging over, if that makes sense. So it took me a little bit as I went up the tree just to make sure the placement was perfect. In total, this took about 50 tumbling blocks, and I let this sit and dry for about 3 hours before I came back in to do anything to the piece. If you want to stain them beforehand, you go right ahead. I usually come back in and do that afterwards. Now I am spraying this with water. I know you guys are like, what the hell are you doing? Listen, it is a quick and easy way to spread your antique Waverly wax around when you have water. I could have just dunked my brush in the Antique Waverly wax and then some water, but spraying it down, a little bit of Antique Waverly wax, and then we painted it on up, and it looked like this once it dried. I'm taking a little bit of Waverly's white chalk paint here and just kind of going around the edges to add a little bit of depth and to kind of bring out the tumbling blocks. So it just gives it more of a branch feel for me. You guys don't have to do this step if you don't want to. Once this dry, I came back in with some little accent pieces. These are just laser cut pieces that I had and some little half of beads, and glued them on to the piece in random sections. You could color yours, you could put glitter on yours, or add greenery. Any of that would look good as well. I just wanted to add these and keep it as neutral as possible, and I thought that the laser pieces would pop out having that white in the background. That's going to be all for this video today, people. I hope you guys enjoyed these Dollar Tree Christmas DIYs. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and until next time, bye!